guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Ever.
Okay, welcome back everyone. We're live with Anonymous Bites Back. Another coronavirus special. It is March, for me it is March 14, for some it's still March 13. We have a special guest in, Jennifer Zeng. She is a human rights activist, she is an author. She is well known for several books about Falun Gong, and she's been an activist for human rights for a long time, and she is well, in 2001 she became a refugee, and I'm not sure if you still live there, but she lived in Sydney as a refugee, and she has a lot of knowledge about China and the Chinese government, and also about the current coronavirus outbreak, and so I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I would suggest sharing this around, because you'll probably hear a lot of information you won't hear anywhere else, and you know that we always get shadow banned on different social media, and we actually need you guys to help us share these episodes around. So I don't know,
Yeah.
you guys, you were already talking while I was like starting the intro, so perhaps just continue.
Yeah. So
Yes.
before the episode went live, we were actually talking about some of the videos that were coming out of China. Jennifer, what do you think was the most significant video that you shared that kind of exposed the cover-up in China, just off the cuff?
Yes, I think that one on the February 1st, that was shot by a man in Wuhan. His name is Fang Bin. He virtually went to the number 5th hospital in Wuhan. At that stage, it was still early on, and people really didn't know what happened. And he actually shoot with cell phone while walking in from the front door of the hospital into the corridor of the hospital, and he counted the bodies he saw that was dragging out of the hospital. So in 5 minutes, he said, I saw 8 bodies, and all those moments got caught up with his phone. So he later on uploaded that phone, so I think he still had a YouTube channel and some WeChat, Weibo channel inside China. So when I saw that video, I was so shocked. So I immediately have some people help me translate it, that all his talking into English, and we put English subtitles on it. So I think I perhaps was the first person who released that video with English title. So immediately that video, I think, went viral. Now I think several days later ago, it already had 1.5 million hits of views of that, because that was the first time. You can't fake up that kind of video. Everybody could see it's so real, and the bodies, the doctors, and he also filmed one man was at a very critical condition in the corridor, not inside the room. So you could see one, the hospital was overwhelmed, and two, there were so many
Right.
people are dying. So that I think is the first very shocking video that the world got to see. And 10 days later, on February 10th, Fang Bin, the man who shot that video, got arrested, and now it's over a month. We never heard a word about what happened to Fang Bin. So that's
Right.
it. He could already, I don't want to say bad things, but that's the price he had to pay for the world to see a little bit of the truth of what's really happened in Wuhan.
Right. Now, what's your opinion about the Chinese saying that they've got a handle in this and that the cases have died down? Do you think they're still covering things up? Do you think that it's actually died down, or do you have no comment on that?
No, I actually just tweeted a report I saw on a Chinese website called the Epoch Times. They did some frontline interview. At least one man died after he was released with those, they set up, I think, 19 so-called Fangcang Hospital in Wuhan. But he died 36 hours after he was released. And there were also people, they get their symptoms get worse, but they couldn't get any treatment because they were, all the hospitals were closed to the people because you are supposed to be cured. So you go back home, now you are on your own. So I think they close up those hospitals just to send the same message that the Chinese Communist Party wants to send to the world and to its own people. Now we've got this control. Now everybody go back to work, keep the economy running, so that we, as the party, can survive this pandemic or epidemic, however you call it.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't put that any better myself. I really think that they're covering it up still and saying that we've got a handle on it, and they don't. Like,
Yes,
I
and yeah. I think today I at least see a few videos of many other places. I just saw a video. I haven't had time to share it yet. So it's somewhere in another city in China. They are now after they ease up things, they are now closing down the business again. And I got another, I think, official file from Bei'an city in Heilongjiang province, that's very, very far, thousands of miles away from Wuhan, just issued a notice which we saw many days ago in other cities, which says every family now could have only one person go out 1 hour, and each time only for 3 hours. Each family get out once per day, and 3 hours only for every time. So they
wow.
are still, yes, that's a Bei'an city in Heilongjiang province. And the situation in Beijing was very bad too. Several days ago, we saw videos of people could not seek treatment because all the hospitals only accepted coronavirus patients. If you are not having this problem, you go home. No hospital would accept that kind of patients.
That's
But like
crazy.
they're saying that the cases are not dying down. There are barely any cases right now every day. So like uh, I think just around 20 new cases a day in the entire China. That is what they're saying. So is it still the case that if you're not a coronavirus patient, you would not be accepted in the hospitals? Because that doesn't make sense to
Uh,
me.
I think it's maybe it's in some, China is so huge. You have different situations in different places. But one thing is very true. If the government could, I know back in 2003 and 2004, when they had the SARS outbreak, they later on, because they want really very badly to control this situation, so they later on issued a internal notification to the officials. If new cases were found in your area, you will be removed from your position. So to keep their position as the head of the city, of their office, there's only one choice. They just stop reporting about any new case, whether there are new cases or not. So they can always report there are no new cases. We've got this situation controlled. But as a matter of fact, at least in Beijing, they set up a so-called Xiaotangshan hospital in a very far away suburb of Beijing. They just lock up anyone who had a problem there. Maybe could be thousands of them, and let them just die out there. So you just eliminate all the cases in the city because you've removed all those people there, let them die out there. So of course you eliminate the new case by eliminating the numbers or eliminating the people who had the virus. So I'm a little bit, I'm very much worried. Now this is the same situation because they have very strict, push that you have to eliminate this. So they end up eliminating the number instead of really eliminating this problem or this virus.
Right. Yeah, we actually saw early on with this virus, we saw that the Chinese government was trying to cover up doctors that were warning them of this, and they actually arrested, I believe, 8 people, and apparently they then released them later on, but nobody knows what happened to them.
Yeah, one of them already died of this virus itself.
Right.
Yes. Some others, I think, just choose not to speak. And I think only several days ago there was a report actually done by one of the Chinese media inside China. They interviewed another doctor who also tried very early on to give out the warnings to the public. But at that time, of course, her voice couldn't be heard. So now they thought, oh, this case is over. Maybe it's over. It's okay to interview her. So in her report, he talked about she gave out the warnings, but to deaf ears. And she even mentioned there were so many bodies in the hospital that they got piled up. They couldn't get somebody to take those bodies away, and the medics were so overwhelmed because the workers from the crematoriums refused to you need to deal with cleanup or whatever, disinfect those bodies for them to be taken away. So the doctors had to do all this job. So she talked about how overwhelmed the situation was. And then that article, I think after it was on for maybe 1 day or less than 1 day, it got all deleted. Although I think there are many Chinese ordinary netizens or citizens tried very hard to try to repost it everywhere, but everywhere it got all deleted. So it's like a crazy deleting and reposting war between the internet police and the netizens in China just these few days.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. China's always been like that with information, right?
Yeah, cover up information. And now I think not only cover up, they are employing so many internet so-called commentators. They even recruit prisoners to act as internet commentators. They want to, try to, I think, shape the public opinion. And now they are trying to blame the U.S. for bringing the virus from U.S. to Wuhan back in last year. Then we had this military game in Wuhan. So they are spread this kind of disinformation in China so that people start hating the U.S., hating the West. So people don't have time to question their handling of this situation and their incompetence and their cover-ups.
Yeah. Mark, did you want to jump in there? Because you know a little bit more information about that than I do.
About that story that the Chinese said that the United States could have been the origin of it. You mean?
Yes, 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 correct.
Yeah, I know that we just started reading about that tonight. Like actually, like shortly before the show, that we read all these articles, even from RT about it. And supposedly they claim that it was already in the U.S. last year, and the U.S. said it was just like a normal flu. And then American soldiers had this whole practice near Wuhan, and they brought it to Wuhan. That's like what the Chinese government, or that's what sources inside the Chinese government claim. One of these guys, one of these high officials, was posting on Twitter about that.
Yes, the spokesperson of the foreign minister, he posted it, I think, yesterday on his Twitter account with a video of, I think, a CDC person giving testimony in the US Congress. They twisted
Yeah.
that case. Yeah, they use it, they made up their own, way of how to look at that story. And because many Chinese people, they don't understand English, and their only channel to get information is Chinese social media and Chinese official media. So inside China, this kind of information is spread out everywhere. They are even saying that President Trump already tested positive, or he already got this virus. So they are spreading this kind of rumors, lies, all over China now.
Well, yeah, yeah. That's. We also saw that one of the Chinese military news websites, it's called XILU, Zulu. I guess that's how you say that.
Xilu,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. They said early on they were saying and that the U.S. was responsible for this like last month, I believe.
Yes, and the title of their article is quite shocking. It says, "Oh, this is a bioweapon especially targeting Chinese, and it's
Yeah.
developed by the US." They also gave examples like many years ago, the US started to connect blood samples of Chinese people along to develop this kind of bioweapon. All
Yep.
sorts of very astonishing, shocking. Of course, they removed that article as well, but luckily I have the habit of archive anything that I think they could got deleted very soon. So I have put that article and translate that article into English on my own website. So anybody is interested to take a look, you can look at my website to take a look of what they are claiming.
Yeah. Now the funny thing is that I find out of this is that all of these world governments are involved in biological weapons. They all work on these biological weapons, and I think personally, my opinion is that this is out of China. It was a mistake. It was leaked by accident. I don't think it was deliberate. I don't think anybody would do something this stupid deliberately. But what I really find out of this is that we are now seeing that these biological labs are a danger to humanity and they should be shut down immediately. And yeah, it's just a lot of proof coming out that they've been working on these biological labs and that these biological labs are very dangerous.
Yes, I think especially in communist China, I think because of the corruption, because of this lack of regulations, and there's lack of moral restraint and lack of legal system,
Yeah.
so it became more dangerous than maybe other places. The Wuhan P4 lab was set up or established with the help of France. But later on, we learned they got the design or the whatever layout of the lamp from the France, but they insist on using the Chinese military construction company to build up. They didn't allow the French experts to get involved. So maybe from the day the day one of this instruction, there could some be loopholes or something not up to the standard, so that it's very easy to to have the virus to be leaked or escaped from the lab, because there's
Right.
lack of not up to the standard. And also we knew cases of Chinese researchers actually sold the animals they used to do experiments to profit that, and they
Right.
earned a huge amount of that money. And those are all very dangerous behavior. And I think the Chinese Communist Party, they knew that. So I think last month or something, they actually urgently issued some kind of regulation about the safety of biotechnology or this kind of labs. So no, because I came from China, I was once the policy research and consultant, researcher for the government, for the state council. So I know in China, if they ever release some regulation saying we have to deal with this issue, it must be this issue already happened, and very, very badly. So they urgently release a new regulation to try to deal with this issue, because this dangerous thing already happened. Now they say, oh, we must to pay attention to the safety of the biotechnology and this kind of laboratories. So that's, for me, is an admission of they've already got very, very grave problems in that area.
Yeah, and actually, when the lab was first proposed and it wasn't even built, there was people warning that this could happen, and that a virus could escape a lab in Wuhan, because they said that it was a very dangerous area to build a biological lab, because of how many people were surrounding the area and live there. They usually build these BSL-4 labs in isolation for reasons. And there were several scientists that warned in a Live Science article where they said that this could happen, and they said that China previously, with the SARS virus, had the SARS virus escape 3 out of 4 times out of one of their labs. So, I mean, it's really not crazy to think that this virus came from a lab, because of the SARS virus escaped from a lab 3 out of 4 times in the past.
Yes, I think, and also it took them, I think, at least 10 years to get that P4 lab in Wuhan set up, because, like you said, there are people opposing it, and France, I think, internally they had a lot of opposition of helping China to get this done. So it took them more than 10 years from the first proposal to finally, establish this lab. So that process, yes, because people already see the problems, they are worried, so they're opposed, so they talk and talk and talk, and finally, somehow, I think, sometimes money talks, so they still got it done.
Yeah, and that's also a question I actually want to ask when you kind of gave the pitch with the money talks thing, right? Because I wanted to ask, like, when we talk about the Chinese government or someone building that lab, are we actually talking about the Chinese as a government, or are we talking about a company that is doing this? And then when you say, like, we work together with France, for example, like, when the Chinese blame the Americans for doing it, are they blaming the American government, or are they blaming some American corporations doing this? And that when we blame China, are we blaming the Chinese government, or are we blaming a Chinese corporation that is actually building this? And maybe, of course, gets the licenses from the government and all these things, but we're talking about commercial operations, maybe.
I think in China, the majority of the society, or actually almost all the important resources of society, is under the government's control. There is no such thing as private or 100% private ownership. The government still owns your body and soul. So, yes, that's not a joke.
It was a clear
So
answer.
yes, so now today I think there's a big news like Jack Ma of Alibaba donated this many of masks to this country, this many of this to that. So we all think he is a private an enterprise entrepreneur. He got his own business. He had this ability to donate this and that, but actually, yeah, on the surface, he owned a private business, but his business, part of that already got taken over by the government. I think the e-pay, some kind of commercial, oh no, electronic payment system that was very profitable, was already taken over by the party, and also he is a Communist Party member. So on the surface, sometimes they need some to act as a PR person, they want to pretend they are having private sector. They have those people put up there as to I think to mislead or deceive the outside world. Like they're experts, they are portraying. They have a very trustworthy expert, Mr. Zhong Nanshan. I think he was the expert who was permitted by the government to first admit it to the public that this coronavirus was human to human. So people admired him for speaking out this truth. But it turned out later on, I think just several days ago, he joined the Communist Party. They made a big fuss about it, having him lead a group of doctors, vowed to the party's flag and joined the party on the front line of battling this virus. And he owned, I think, at least 3 direct companies, and 19 some kind of companies had ties with him. So he is part
Interesting.
of the party system, and there's no independent scholars whatsoever in communist China. We have to remember this.
So basically, what you're saying is, if you're not a Communist Party member, you can't really own a successful business in China. That's what I'm getting
No.
at.
Yeah, at least you maybe on the surface you are not a party member, but you need to have party members behind you. And if the party needs your company or needs any part of your business, you need to hand them to the party at any time, including we all think Jack Ma is such a wealthy person, such a powerful person. Actually, a large part of his business was already taken over by the party last year, several months ago, and he was forced to announce he would like to. He already, I think, stepped down from his board position, a chair of the board or whatever. He's still so young, so people also, I think, guess he got some pressure from that. So because the government, the state-owned business was doing so bad, so they now want to take over this so-called private businesses, which are running relatively better than the state-owned enterprises. So Jack Ma's business already got taken over by a large portion of that already taken over by the government.
Interesting. That's all very interesting information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm I'm speechless on that in regards to how much control China has over corporations like that. That's crazy.
Oh, it's a clear
Yeah.
answer. I mean, like the perfect answer actually to the question. Like, because from the outside it looks like, yeah, these are just like huge corporations and they're doing their own stuff now, right? And they do get like licenses from the Chinese government, but it looks like they're becoming so big and powerful, and it's almost like similar. It looks like it's similar to like the U.S. or like here in Europe, that yeah, they perhaps built these labs themselves. But yeah, okay, you explained perfect. They don't do anything without the Chinese government
Yes,
being
and,
involved.
and for the specific company that built up the P4 lab in Wuhan, it's a military construction company that has, China is military. They also the one set up many business under the military to earn money, because they all the officials or army generals all are also very corrupt. They also want to earn money, so they also set up their own companies. So if you are military, you 100% belong to the party, and the military is a vote. You need to be loyal to the party, and the party is above the military, and the military is serving the party instead of the country or the nation or the people.
Yeah, yeah. I was asking like before because like here in Europe, for example, like one of the probably the largest medicine producer is Bayer, and Bayer they make these similar they build these similar labs too in Europe, right? But they're just commercial. They build them too, and
Yeah.
because they produce all the vaccines and the pharmaceuticals against it, so they would act on their
Yeah.
own, but they would follow specific guidelines, of course. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But in China, it's still a one-party country, and it's still pretty much a planned economy in many sense. They only maybe have so-called a little bit market economy to those not very important small businesses, like a small factory producing some maybe sweaters or some restaurant, that not very important business. But for all the important businesses, it's all owned by the government or controlled by the government. Even now they have those so-called joint businesses where foreign investors and the Chinese business set up some so-called joint enterprises. For those foreign companies, they are now also establishing party branches in those businesses to monitor or to give surveillance or to give so-called guidance of how you should run your business. So even if you are a foreign company, they are still establishing party branches inside that company.
Okay. You guys can jump in and ask the questions.
Yeah, I muted myself just so everybody else could have a chance to jump in, so I'm not constantly talking.
Yeah, I know. Like, I just did this one specific question was very important for me to know. I think Smiler, I can see her active too.
Yeah, so I think we could sort of tell since this month, since early March, the Chinese government is trying to set the propaganda of that they are not responsible for the origin of the virus, and then also like they didn't do that bad. I think they're really trying to spread this message since March. Um, like, what are your views on that?
My view,
Yeah, they are kind of
yes,
trying to shake off their international responsibilities about the
yes.
outbreak of the virus. Yes.
Yes, I think the Chinese communist regime is having a huge crisis now, because it's mishandling of the situation and people suffered so much and so many lives have lost. So they really, I think, is encountering a huge crisis, whereas I think maybe already becoming a threat to the very existence of this regime. So at this moment, they, I think, desperately need some banner to hold up, and then to can hold all the nation and all the people together and to fight together with them. So nationalism, I think, is a very important banner. If they can successfully convince the Chinese people that this came from the U.S., this could be something the U.S. launching on us, so people start blaming the U.S. government. So nobody were blaming them for mishandling this situation, and people can be united with this hatred and this anger toward the evil, imperial of the U.S. That's what they are calling the U.S. all the time. So that I think it's so for them. We could maybe you view it as a joke because the people in the West, I think the majority of us don't believe it. We view it as a joke, but for them, it's very, very vital moment for their very survival. So just a few days ago, I think just yesterday, I shared an internal document of their guideline to how to fight the information war on the internet. So so on the general guideline, they made it very clear this information war on the internet is vital to the very existence. Of course, they don't say of our party, they say the existence of People's Republic of China. So they desperately need somebody to blame and need something to unite the people through their anger, through their, hatred toward the West, so that people can still follow the party, to obey the party, because we need to fight to win this battle, this national battle with this evil West or evil U.S. imperial, regime, so that our nation can survive this. So I think for them, they are doing it very seriously because this is a very critical moment for the regime, whether they can survive this or not.
Okay, so I just want to have your clarification on one thing. You said it's an internal document. So I wonder, like, for that guideline, it's from whom to whom?
It's just there is a so-called information cyberspace information management office. So it's issued by that office, and the China, they have employed so many internet commentators. If you look at my Twitter today, I shared several photos of they are actually having training classes inside prisons because they don't have maybe enough manpower outside there. So if they recruit prisoners to do this for them, they don't have even to pay these prisoners. If the prisoners can maybe post enough comments or enough content under their guideline, they can be released ahead of time. So I think I share quite a few photos inside different prisons in China. They are doing this not from today. The earliest photo was back in 2010. So for all these years, they are doing this. So, China is a central government. So once the central government from the highest level issued some document, so every level below that inside this system follow that. So all they employ ordinary citizens as those so-called internet commentators, and they also recruit prisoners to do this job for them. That's that, because they have to rely on the numbers if they want to wash out your platform with their message. They have to rely on the numbers. So that's this central level cyberspace information management office.
Okay. And so the guideline is released to those commentators, also including the prisoners, is that right?
Yes, because they are, you can see the several photos I shared on my Twitter. So they also include recruit prisoners to do this within, I believe within the prison to work for them.
Do you have an estimation maybe of the number of those commentators?
I think at least some hundreds of thousands. That's maybe just a very low number. Yes, we saw a report, I think, in February. I think they changed the leaders in Wuhan city or in Hubei province after their situation went very, very bad. So the new leadership, as soon as they went into office, the first job they do is to employ 1,600 internet uh, people to control the internet, to delete information they don't like, to post information that say good things for them. So Wuhan city alone, and under this new administration body, they hired 1,600 internet commentators. So in the whole country, I think maybe that number, hundreds of thousands, was maybe many years ago. I had that kind of number. Maybe nowadays, because there are more internet users, could be much more than that.
Right. Yeah, that is very true. There are a lot more internet users. Now they depend on like sources from internet.
Yeah.
Sometimes even more than those on the news. So just like in this incident, the outbreak in Wuhan, people um trust what is online more than what is on the news a lot. Um,
Yes.
so for example, those videos online, some people are saying that they were filmed scripted, and like a lot of them are not true. What do you think?
Oh, what do you refer? Which ones do you
So
refer?
very particularly, there are those where people were filmed on the street, just dropping down
Mm-hmm.
in one moment with nothing weird going on in prior. So people are saying that is fake because no one would just film the street and catch that moment.
Mm-hmm. Uh, yes, I think there could be some fake ones. I think at least several, maybe days ago in New York, flashing, there was a Chinese
Mm,
guy. He just, I think he did a prank, maybe just to make a joke, and but that also video got also spread in the internet. But later on, the police came out to say this is a prank. He was not having coronavirus. They sent him to the hospital. He's not has having that kind of problem.
mm,
So that is for sure that there could be some, fake cases. But on the other hand, we do see, I think, a lot of real cases, like I shared a video which is very obviously catched up by a surveillance video outside a shop somewhere. I think also in the northeast part of China. Three of police officers walking on the street, and then suddenly one of them collapsed, and those two rushed to him to check if there's one or two you can. But the purpose is, or the question is, why do they want to do these fake videos? Because if there are so many thousands of people died, so it's not so strange that
mm,
the videos could maybe catch one or
mm,
two of those collapses. And also, I think I think trustworthy news agent also filmed that, and I think at least AP or Reuters, I forgot which one of them, got also filmed that moment in Wuhan. I think very early on, of the people, spotting lying on the street. And the problem is there were so many we saw, and maybe if just one or two you can see it's fake. But there were so many. If you watch them, you figure out the circumstances, and you see people's reactions. Uh, and the most important thing is, if people fake this, what their motivation, what they can gain from it. Just especially for people inside China, for them to film this kind of thing and upload and spread them into the internet, it's very dangerous for them, because right now they have a new law in Heilongjiang province. If you spread false information about coronavirus, you can get to up to 15 years in prison. So they didn't get anything. They didn't, profit anything from making this. If one person, maybe you can say he just want to make a joke, but there are so many of them, and you can see the people's panic reaction around that person. And sometimes it's just somebody lying there and nobody dare to touch those people. And we see the videos like catching the moving movement of the body from the hospital to those vans. So there are so many death cases. So I think a lot of them, or the majority of those, I believe are real. Maybe some of them are fake. I do think actually to create fake things is one of the strategies of this internet police, of these Chinese, these commentators. If you read that article, one of their guidelines is sometimes it's possible to create very sensational, false images, so that to discredit the real information. Yes, that is maybe part of their strategy, but for the majority of it, I think for the ordinary people, they risk their lives to post those things, and they just think this is important to share, and this, or maybe they're just so scared, they think we should let people know this, or maybe they just think this is so strange, and they don't know what to do. And they are risking a lot of things to post this, and they don't benefit anything. And we do have other videos like police went to citizens' home and warning them about posting things that the government didn't like, and force them to delete that and then repost something to say, oh, that is not true, to admit. So we also got those kind of moments captured maybe by some citizens. Nowadays, everybody has a cell phone, so it's very convenient.
Right.
If they say something strange, they may start right away recording. So I think, we can make our own judgment, and so I believe the most of them are real.
Right.
Because I remember,
oh, go ahead.
Okay. So I remember since the very beginning of this coronavirus outbreak, there were a lot of videos circulating around, and for a lot of those, especially those just people filming themselves talking, it's hard to tell whether what they're saying is true or not. But always, after one video came out, if it's viral, there will always be another one that's like, saying that the first one is fake, and then giving some kind of evidence that it's also doubtful. It seems like there's a propaganda war in there the entire time.
Yes, because they have those guidelines. They have, if you read, I think there are 16 items of them to detail which kind of under this, if this happens, you do this. If that happens, you do that. There was another one, I think, only several days ago, especially talk about how they should portray the U.S. situation. If the coronavirus in U.S. went worse, they should do this. If it's not that worse, they should do this. So they have, so whatever happens in the U.S., they already got something to say, to turn the public opinion against the U.S. and to make U.S. look bad and to make China look good. So it's the strategy is already there. So if you read those documents and you look back to what you say over the internet over this month, you can fairly say it's very clear that they are following those strategies, these tactics all along.
Just to jump in real, just to jump in real quick with a quick question. So do you think that we're heading towards a informational Cold War with China now over this?
Yes, I think it's very, very important. I think now it's a big wake-up call for the whole world, really to see through the Chinese Communist Party for what it is. It's not only an information war, I think it's also an ideology war. The Chinese Communist Party, I think before the coronavirus broke out, they were talking about a great China dream, the great rejuvenance of China, a China model. Yeah, they are really thinking about or talking about taking over the world with their own model, with their very efficient one-party system, better than democracy. Under democracy, your people always argue. You can never get things done. So this ideology is another war they want to. I think they've already launched that, waged that, or in the U.S. for so many years. They've already infiltrated many, I think, Western society. So that's why this virus situation got so bad, because there were so many countries, they don't want to upset China. They don't want to, they dare not to close their borders. They don't want to call out this, even reluctant to call it Wuhan virus or whatever. And they let their citizens exposed to this virus because they didn't take, I think, enough precaution, and they believe whatever the Communist Party was telling them, so they didn't regard this as serious as seriously as they should. So I think this is a very big wake-up call, because this party's nature, this Communist Party, ever since its established many, I think, hundreds of years ago, in the manifesto of communism, it's already declared very, very clearly. So the communism is, we are going to destroy all existing human civilization for us to, to have a global revolution, for us to achieve communism. So it's from the very beginning, they've already declared a war upon all existing human civilization. So this war has been happening all along. It had never stopped, although sometimes we thought it had stopped, and it had taken away, the communism movement has taken away, I think, more than 200 million people's lives. And that's not include maybe some 300 or 400 million unborn babies in China who got, killed before they were even born. So we had to wake up to the threat and to the evil nature of the Communist Party. Even if today we don't have this virus issue, tomorrow we could have some other issue, because its nature is evil. It never respects human life, and it's vowed to destroy all humanity and human civilization from the very beginning of its establishment. So it's high time we wake up. If we don't, I think humanity is really doomed.
Now, in regards to what you just said about infiltrators, what do you think about the Harvard professor who was arrested for treason? And
Yes.
In addition to that, do you think that there was a link between the Chinese scientists that were sending coronavirus from Canada last year to Wuhan?
We can hardly say without any evidence, but I think the overall trend is very clear. The infiltration is huge, like they have this so-called 1,000 tenants plan. So they recruit so many overseas tenants and to work for the Chinese Communist Party. So many, like you said, you mentioned the Harvard professor, many top universities have already been infiltrated very, very badly. So many Western as well as Chinese scholars, professors are actually working for the Chinese Communist Party, but they had free access to all the labs, all the top secret, all the top technologies. So in all these years, we don't know how much technology the Chinese Communist Party have already stolen from the West. I think FBI director of US already said this is the biggest wealth transfer in human history. So according to his numbers, some kind of $6,000 billion lost just through this technology theft. And also, I think they infiltrate many politicians. They corrupt many politicians so that these politicians lobbying for the party to make, benign policies, embracing China, let them join the WTO, let them join UN, let them join this and that. And little by little, I think for the past several decades, without us realizing it, many of these important, even the legal system or even the policy making system was already have been already corrupt by the party, so that when we made any kind of sometimes even national policy, because they have this think tank, people also got infiltrated, got corrupted by the Chinese people. So when government make decisions, they based on the studies of think tanks, the studies of scholars, but those scholars and think tanks are already working for the Chinese Communist Party. So of course, if our own policies, state strategies were made, under the guidance or the advice of this kind of people, of course, they all, benefit China, and that's why they have taken so much advantage of the West, and that's why they are able to spread this virus to so many countries, because we are all so eager to do business with China. So there's an editorial article on the Epoch Times I highly recommend everybody to have a read, entitled "Where Ties with Communist Party Are Close, the Coronavirus Follows." So it has a very thorough analysis of all the situations of different countries with this virus and their ties with the Chinese Communist China and how it happened and spread in those different several countries. And I think we can benefit a lot. And if we can see through the thread of the Communist Party and we call out their names, and I think we should break away from the illusion that it is part of it can become part of the democratic free world, and we just need to embrace them. If we can get away that and see through for what it is and call out its names, and I think really to resist their evil ideas and to push back their, I think, threatening infiltration or expansion efforts throughout the world, I think that's very, very critical for the free world to ban this, to win this battle. Whether you call it a Cold War or not, this battle has already been going on for many years. Hello?
Yeah, I just muted myself just so everybody else could have a chance to speak to you. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Anybody else here have any other questions? Hello? Mark?
I'm here.
Do you have any questions? I know earlier on in the show you wanted to get into another topic that I know literally nothing about. So, I mean, if you want to take the lead, that'd be good. I think it would be good for our audience to kind of educate them. So.
Yeah. Okay. If you're up to it, Jennifer. I mean.
Yes.
Okay. Well, when I introduced you, we mentioned the Falun Gong thing, right? And you wrote several books about that.
Mm-hmm.
what we see now with because there were also stories about this whole coronavirus thing, and that there are, like, for example, these Uyghur Muslims are in camps in China, like detainment camps, and they were faced with this virus and saying, like, yeah, we're pretty much trapped here with the whole virus thing. And now we know in the West, some of us, if we're like a journalist or like we research this a bit, we know about what happened with the Falun Gong, at least a little. And but for the listeners, maybe you should actually help us to explain it a bit.
Yes, yes, thank you. Falun Gong is a kind of, meditation system, or you can say it's a spiritual mind and a physical improvement system based on Buddhism and Taoism, where it's very ancient system. People in China have been, we call it cultivating ourselves. It's kind of self-improvement, like meditation and following a certain way of life or principles. So Falun Gong was founded in 1992 and introduced to the public in that year. And the founder gave some classes in different part of the country, and then people learn it because it was free of charge. People all teach everybody teach everybody else how to do the exercises, and all the books on the internet could be downloaded for free. And the health benefit was very, very obvious. Many people got recovered from their non-existing health problems, including myself. Before I took Falun Gong in 1997, I lied in hospital for several years without being able to work or being able to look after my daughter. I had a medical incident while I gave birth to my daughter, and through blood transfusion, I caught hepatitis C, so my health was totally ruined. But after I practiced Falun Gong for only 1 month, all my health problems gone. So that was like a miracle. And so people very eagerly introduce this practice to their families, friends, everybody they know, because they themselves benefited. They were very excited about it. They want everybody to know. And this practice is so good because it doesn't cost you 1 penny to learn it, and you benefit so much. So within 7 years after its introduction to China in 1999, so through an investigation conducted by the Public Security Department of China, they estimated there were somewhere between 70 to 100 million people practicing this in China.
Yeah, it's what I read too, 70 million at
Yes,
least.
so the sheer number of that let the part feel, they feel insecure because so many people are doing something together. Actually, Falun Gong has no membership. It's not a very it's a very loose, you can say, self-improvement. You cannot even call it an organization because it don't have an office. It doesn't have any bureaucracy system, so everybody can come and go as freely as you can, and they even don't take your name. They don't have a membership roster or that sort of thing, but still people do it together in the park or in some kind of spare square outside a shopping mall or that sort of thing. So they regard it as a threat. So in 1999, the Communist Party launched an overwhelming crackdown on Falun Gong. So many practitioners were arrested, tortured, sentenced, and very, very badly. I myself was arrested 4 times and then spent 1 year in Beijing female labor camp. So the purpose for us to send to the camp, the party said, is to get us reformed, which means to give up our practice in Falun Gong. So when the party decided to eliminate Falun Gong, they have only two methods to go. One is to eliminate these people. Another one is to turn these people into a non-Falun Gong practitioner. So the Falun Gong disappeared. So the battle between, if you really believe in something and they force us to say something very badly, nastily against this issue. So the battle inside the camp was, I think, out of any imagination of any normal being. The torture they used was beyond evil. So I was shocked with electric batons. They had, female Falun Gong practitioners, threw into male prisoner cells and got them gang raped. They use all sorts of kind of torture methods, and they force us to do slave hard labor. And also another very shocking part of it. Later on, they figured out if we can't reform you, we can't change your mind, we can use you as party, as organ suppliers, organ donors. So they started to test our blood and got our blood types data stored in a computer system. So anyone from any part of the world need an organ, they can find a match in that database and then kill that person on demand to sell his or her organs. I think as late as March the 1st and February 29th, they did two double lung transplant to two different coronavirus patients in China. And they were able to find a match for that patient within 4 days. So if you have any, I think understanding of how this organ donation and organs transplant system work, if you have to wait for somebody to die and that person happen to match your type, you have to wait for years to find an organ. So for them to be able to find an organ in 4 days, the only possible way is to do a reverse match, is to find a person in a huge amount of data, and then maybe they have hundreds of thousands people's data in that computer system. That's why they can find it within days. So for the past 20, I think now already 23 or 20, more than 20 years, they keep on arresting, trying to suppress Falun Gong practitioners. So people who were killed for their organs could be some up to 2 million. And for all other torture cases, it's thousands. And for people who ended up in these labor camps, jails, prisoners, that's also could be millions. And the persecution is still going on. They are still arresting Falun Gong practitioners. And of course, because the world didn't stop them doing this to this group of people, now the party has more power. They extend the persecution to the Uyghur in the Xinjiang area, and also some say 2 million, some say 3 million also got locked down in the labor camp or in the camps. And there, I think all people in Xinjiang area got already their blood and DNA sample taken by the party. So, and then we saw the crackdown on people of Hong Kong last year. So this party, because it has the power, it became more and more aggressive. So the persecution of the Falun Gong practitioners, and especially the organ harvesting, had been very astonishing, but still many people don't know it. I once said, if as human being we cannot stop an evil like this, I doubt whether we are worthy to call ourselves human being anymore. So, but very sadly, up to now, not much has been done to try to stop this never yet to be seen, I think, crime against humanity on this planet.
That is actually a very serious accusation about like that they are harvesting organs by actually going after people to kill them. Um, I don't know about this. I mean, like I have heard about it, but I'm really doubtful. Um,
Yes,
if that
because
is happening, like why aren't we hearing from people? If that's happening in a large, in a national scale in such a big country, why aren't we
yes,
hearing about it?
yes, I think there. If you search for forced organ harvesting, you can get some kind of information, but the only problem, yes, it's not enough, because why we're not hearing it? One, because the Chinese government would never report about this, and two, they would never allow others to report about them. We talk about the infiltration of the Chinese Communist Party in the Western society, and now with the media report, we can see how it works. Many media, big media corporations actually, like Bloomberg, and I think the owner of Mike Bloomberg, who actually was a U.S. president candidate this year, he openly said, President Xi is not a dictator. Excuse me. So for all these big companies, big media companies, they are practicing self-censorship. They have big interest if they want to go inside China to report from inside China, and many big companies, Wall Street, they all want to go into China to have the huge Chinese market. So they do self-censorship. Even those scholars who do China study, if they say something upset the party would not let them go into China to do their field study. So this infiltration is very terrifying, to the extent that the media practice self-censorship. Like with this coronavirus issue, we all see how the WHO was like a propaganda machine for the party. For the half of the time, they are praising the party for doing such a good job. And the WHO actually had a meeting, called a meeting like with Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, those social media companies, and demanding them to censor information about coronavirus in the name of, fighting those misinformation. But all those big companies, big media companies, and many Western companies, Wall Street companies, international multinational big giant companies, I think all kowtowing to the party and trying help the party one way or the other. Some Western companies even help the Chinese Communist Party to build this so-called Great Firewall on the internet to block all free information from getting in and out of China. And they gave them the surveillance technology, surveillance equipment to set up, this to turn this whole nation into a big prison where everybody is surveilled with this surveillance system. They have a social credit system to make sure that everybody is controlled by this system. So that's why we're not hearing about this. But still, there are also a lot of reports. If you can search, there are websites. I think only yesterday, a group of judges, journalists, and human rights activists and former victims of the labor camp system was having a hearing in the U.S. Congress. And the U.S. Congress, I think, actually many years ago, they've already issued several resolutions to condemn against this practice. So it's now well recognized crime, and People's Tribunal back in London last year. The judge was a very renowned judge who, I think his name is Nice. He was asked actually the International Criminal Court. He had a very high reputation. He chaired a people tribunal and did a trial on this issue, and they already released their final judgment, which says this is happening. It's already there's already verdict there. So the information is there, only the media is not reporting it enough. But back in last year, I think in June, when the court handed out this verdict, there are quite a lot of media coverage there. If you do search like for organ harvesting, also China Tribunal, you can get those information. And also there's a website called let me see what that website is, and they have all sorts of information there. Yes, all and transplantabuse.org, one word, and transplantabuse.org. So there are many information about this organ harvesting, including the judgment, the final judgment of the China Tribunal I talked about earlier.
Yeah, there is a lot of information. This is also a huge amount of information you just gave, by the way. Um,
Yes.
but it does tie in with the whole surveillance system, and the Falun Gong situation was at the root of this, and that is how many outside of China actually became familiar with the practices of this authoritarian regime. Like, uh, because at the start I gave the example of the Uyghur Muslims. I gave this example of the Falun Gong. The religious practices go against this concept they have of this Marxist Leninism or materialism, right? This for them is dangerous. It goes against
Yeah.
them because you have a spiritual. The spirituality is the highest thing in your in these practices.
Yes, yes. The part is the only god in China. So if you believe in other gods, then that's not good. They need to eliminate you.
Yeah, no, exactly. That they need to be the highest. They don't accept anything higher, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, and we've seen the images and of torture and the mobile organ harvesting things. These were like the most shocking thing. No one had ever heard of these things, but then we saw these pictures of their actual fans, and they would pick up protesters and harvest organs like in mobile fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is all true, right? I mean, people were.
Yes, they've been doing that. I met a doctor from Xinjiang. He personally was forced to remove a prisoner's organs while that prisoner was still alive. He gave a testimony to the China Tribunal. I met him. So that happened very early on. The first step is they use the executed prisoners, but when they do the execution, they actually didn't shot that person dead because they want the organs quality to be good. So that was as early as 1960s, 1970s, and it has never. I think it's open secret in China system now. So the court system, the hospital, they work together. Whenever there is execution, the hospital had a van going to the execution site and took the organs right there. So after the crackdown of Falun Gong, the difference is now they have huge amount of people detained in somewhere, and then to harvest organ from executed prisoners to living people, for them is just one step forward. So they don't have mental barrier to do that kind of thing, because these prisoners weren't shot to death before their organs were harvested anyway. So they've already done it. Although it's not on such a large scale, then they figure out, if those people, we can't reform them, why don't we just sell the organs? So one person's body parts could be sold for $500,000 US if you put them all the numbers together. So that is for them just one step forward. But the amount, and you see the numbers of the organ transplant they finished jump suddenly to from 1999. They sudden jump, so they can't explain whatsoever why or where they can suddenly do so many organ transplant. Where do they find the organs? They can never explain that.
Exactly, and there has been independent research into this from outside of China. Um, there, because there are there is like a huge number of organ transplants, like you're saying, but then there are hospitals who are saying that they are getting voluntary donations of organs, and then there were journalists. Would call all these hospitals and ask for the numbers of how many of the how many voluntary donations do you actually get, and they would say like. We get like 2 or 3 a year, right? Or we haven't had any donations for the last few years. But then in the numbers, you see like huge amounts of transplants, and they can't be explained.
It's tens of thousands per year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they boasted that number. They are the number 2 maybe organ transplant nations. And Chinese people usually don't donate their organs. That's their cultural thing. The Chinese people believe you need to keep your body intact after your death so that you can go to heaven or something. So people usually don't donate their bodies.
So I wonder.
Even if they do, actually in China there is no such donation system like in the West. We have a very, I think, established system that worked very well for so many years. China does not have a system at all.
Now here you have just like a donor card. You can either say like yes or no, and then if like an accident happens to you and you like die, then you can like your organs will be transplanted. You have to, if you said yes on the card. But so I wonder now that there's like the whole corona outbreak in China and around it, how, because there are still tens of millions of Falun Gong practitioners right now in China, it says.
Yes.
There must be still tens of millions, but how are they dealing like with this corona outbreak? Are they even getting like the same medical care as other people? And do you know anything about this?
We have no idea. I saw one video of one Falun Gong practitioner got arrested during this coronavirus outbreak because the party machine is still running. Falun Gong is still banned. If they found you, they caught you. So I saw that one video of a Falun Gong practitioners got caught. And also we see news like coronavirus broke out in several prisons in Shandong province, very bad situation. So, and I really have no idea whether they can get treatment or not. Probably not, because not only they. I share a real story, a film director called, I think, Chang Kai. His father, both his parents were professors of the Tongjing University in Wuhan. Even professors couldn't get a bed in the hospital. So his father died, and then his mother himself and his sister, 4 of their family all died. So even, he has a very good social status. He's a film director. His parents were professors. Even these kind of people couldn't get a bed in the hospital and died. The whole family almost died out. He only got a son, I think, at that time in England, in UK. We don't know what happened to that son because we hope he's good. So almost the whole family died out. So for Falun Gong practitioners, I don't think they will get any special treatment or good treatment in this regard.
Okay. Yeah, I know there are several lawsuits and investigations still going on into the whole Falun Gong situation. I think there were like, if I'm correct, there were I think there were over 60 different lawsuits around the world. I'm not sure.
Yes, many. I think from very early on, we started a lot of lawsuits to sue these different party officials for doing. I myself launched two lawsuit with the United Nations Anti-Torture Committee and Human Rights Committee, but they never. United Nations this committee they never took this serious. I launched this lawsuit, but I never heard any of this. But there are some other cases in which the court really say, "Oh, this is criminal," and they already hand out their judgment. But of course, because these people hide in China, we cannot go in China to arrest them. But at least there were already some judgments saying those people are guilty of torture or guilty of this, guilty of that. And there are also, like you said, many ongoing lawsuits. Like I think Human Rights Foundation, I think launched a lawsuit against Cisco company in US for them against their help in the Chinese Communist Party to build up this firewall system to monitor to Falun Gong practitioner, and many Falun Gong practitioners got arrested because their information got, known by the police through this surveillance system on the internet. And for myself, I was arrested the fourth time because they intercept an email from the internet, and that email was a letter I wrote to my parents-in-law, and that email contained the keywords Falun Gong, so they somehow intercept that letter, and I was thrown into the labor camp and almost tortured to death. So there was a lawsuit against Cisco, but still I think it's going nowhere. So there are many ongoing open cases. There are several, I think, already closed cases, and there are like my cases with the UN. I never heard back from UN what they are doing with these cases.
Yeah, I was reading a bit into it, and it said 54 civil and criminal lawsuits were underway in 33 countries.
Yes.
So, and courts in Spain and Argentina actually indicted Jiang Zemin and Liu Gan on charge of crimes of humanity and genocide, and asked for the arrest. Ruling is acknowledged to
Yes.
be largely symbolic and unlikely to be carried out, but yeah, it's just a message, right? That
Yes, but at least I think the Western legal system recognize they are committing a crime against humanity.
yeah, and so and here is the thing that is, I think, very important for interesting for our listeners, and that is that the Falun Gong also filed a lawsuit against the technology company Cisco. Um, we mentioned it before on the show, and Cisco is deeply involved with the Chinese firewall. They help
Yeah.
with the whole censorship and the whole surveillance systems for the Chinese government, and these are of course used to also suppress the Falun Gong.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, that was important to notice, I guess, because we have many technology activists listening, and uh, they're very familiar with Cisco, right? Which is a U.S. company. When you think
Yeah.
about it, then yeah, it is kind of strange.
Yes. Very sad. Very strange. And very dangerous. I think they creep into the free society, and they corrupt so many sectors of the society with us without us realizing it. And someday when we wake up, we could find it's too late for us to do something. So I hope this coronavirus is the last wake up call we could get. If we cannot wake up under such severe situation, I don't think what else can wake us up.
No, you're very right about that.
Now,
Yeah, so
what do
I
you
feel
think? Go ahead.
okay. So about Falun Gong, I have one question that's always been there. So it's always said that it's a spiritual thing. You do that for your health and so on. But you guys also kind of are involved a little bit in politics. as also know, um, like in the banners, if I'm gonna see any Falun Gong kind of stalls, there will always be something about the CCP, the Central Chinese Government, and they're just they should be destroyed and so on. So I wonder why would Falun Gong be involved in politics?
Mm-hmm. Yes, many people. I think the Chinese Communist Party is, I think, one of the excuse for persecuting Falun Gong is that you are getting political, and if you are getting political, that's a crime. So it's okay for us to persecute you. Actually, as far as I can see, Falun Gong is not a political organization, and it does not have any political agenda, because it never had any political slogan or political goal. We need to achieve this. We need to have a party, and we want the power. We want to, get into the election. We want to get into the government. It never says this. But why people are saying it have some political aspect of it, because the Chinese Communist Party persecute Falun Gong, and Falun Gong is opposing this persecution. And because this persecution, you can also regard it as because it's launched by a political party, it's a political organization, and also because the Falun Gong practitioners, they believe that because why the Chinese Communist Party was so upset with Falun Gong, because Falun Gong believe in higher principles, in higher beings, in gods or in Buddhas, in Tao's, whatever you call them. So they believe if you persecute innocent people, you are going to bring huge amount of karma, and you will encounter huge retribution from the heaven, from higher powers. So they believe if you are part of this party, if you are a party member and you get involved or you help the party to do this evil against innocent people, against people who believe in God, in Buddha, in Tao's, you are having similar karma. So as people who believe in goodness, in compassion, they want to help people to break away from the spiritual control of the party, so that when the heaven sometime decided it's enough, it's time to give some retribution for this party to doing this evil. When that day comes, you are not part of its member, you can be exempted from being, share the responsibility or share the collective karma of this party. So they sincerely believe in this. So sometimes they try to convince people, maybe you need to break away from the spiritual control of the party, or you need to get away or denounce your party member, your party membership, that sort of thing. So for Falun Gong practitioners, we are doing this in the belief that we want these people to be saved when that day comes. Whether you believe it or not, they are believing it very seriously. So they are doing this to ask people actually to break away from a political party. It's not have people to join another political party. So whether you regard this as political or not, they don't regard it as political event. They regard it as saving people's lives from out of their own compassion, because Falun Gong follow truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. So in this regard, they never say we will set up a party, we will take over the country after the party collapse. They said it very clearly from the very beginning. Falun Gong were never involved in politics or have political agenda or take over the party if the party collapse. So we don't have that kind of interest. Everybody is still practicing in your normal job, in your normal life, in your family. And of course now we think this nation is really producing a great amount of karma. For if you taken people's organs while they are still alive, it's not, people, Buddhist monks never take any lives. If sometimes when they walk, they jump over so that they don't step on ants. They even don't want to hurt a little life as an ant. If you kill fellow human being, what kind of that karma, huge karma, that kind of thing will produce. And also you've killed so many people. So we sincerely think that is too much karma there, and we sincerely hope that people can break away from, this connective karma. If you break away from them, you at least you won't bear the consequences on behalf of this evil party. That's our logic, whether people accept it or not, but we are doing it very sincerely.
That's interesting. I've been hearing that for the first time, actually. So
Yes.
I just wonder, like, for following up, because you're talking about karma, and other than the Chinese central government, there are also a lot of injustice in the entire world. Like, there are a lot of people who are doing the wrong things, who are hurting people, and so on. So, other than the Chinese government, is there any groups that the Falun Gong is against?
We think we only against the persecution, and I think, of course, there are many general principles we believe. Of course, we don't believe in killing. If you purposely taking people's life, you do evil things. I think we have our own moral standard. If you go against the moral standard, of course, that kind of behavior we don't think is good. But Falun Gong is a self-practice system. We can just talk about our principles, but we never coerce others. You should do this, you should do that. We believe in everybody has his own choice to choose whatever they believe into, but we do believe there are heavenly principles. If you go against those heavenly principles, of course you produce karma for yourself. If you have too much karma, you have bad consequences. So we always advise people to do good, not to do evil. And the heavenly principles is truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance and tolerance. If you tell lies, of course, you could produce karma. If you're killing people, you do evil things, you use violence, you steal people's money, all that's kind of bad things. We think it's not good. People should not be doing it. And we do believe if people's morality goes down, people will bring bad consequences for themselves. So we always try to let people, or at least we practice self-constraint. We don't do evil, so because we don't want bad things happen to ourselves.
Okay, so which is you're only after the Chinese government, this one group, because they are the only one who are affecting your group. Is that right?
Not
That's why you're not like.
exactly. Not exactly go after them. We are against this persecution. We oppose this persecution. We expose the persecution, but we believe in higher principles. We were not physically, take a gun to fight them. During the persecution, so many people were beaten to death, but never you find one case of Falun Gong practitioners physically fight back against those who persecuted us. So we won't fight them death ourselves or physically, but we do believe in heavenly principles, and we believe when the time comes, when enough is enough, the heaven will do something to this party, and we have very much confidence about that. So we are not after anything. We believe in the higher principles, and we believe someday these principles will play out. So we only hope that people will follow, principles and restrain themselves from doing bad so they have a brighter future. So we want to do good, we want to save more lives, we want people to, if we believe the party is evil, it have bad consequences, we want people to get away from this party, to keep distance from this party. So we regard all this as saving lives, not after some particular political party, including the Chinese Communist Party.
Okay.
Okay.
I think AK had something to ask.
I've been very patiently waiting for you.
I'm sorry.
No. I don't have anything to ask. I was going to add earlier about the Muslim Uyghurs that were being tortured, and there was reports that there was like organ trafficking going on there too. But you guys kind of touched on it all, so I didn't add it. It was a very, very, very informative discussion for sure. I learned a lot because I barely knew any information in regards to this, so I've just been quiet over here.
Yeah.
See, that's how powerful they actually are, right? It's like an oppressive government, how powerful they can be in suppressing knowledge about this. Because it is a movement of, we mentioned it, over 70 million people, or maybe even 100 million people.
Yeah.
So this is more than like the country of Germany, for example. This is like,
Yes.
yeah.
That's how powerful they suppress such a large group of people, and they suppress all the information. So the persecution has been going on for over 20 years, but still there are so many people know nothing at all about this.
No, and I've seen the Falun Gong practitioners in Amsterdam, like on Amsterdam Square, Dam Square. I then just see them sitting there doing the meditation things and giving some information.
In any country, I think outside, except from the mainland China, even in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, every people I think in Vietnam, or even there are people practicing it, they never create any trouble or any problem for their society, and every society accepted them as a normal, just another group of people doing some harmless thing and meditating and help, improve themselves. So there's never any problems in any country, in any other country. Only in communist China they found this group threatening. It's their own problem, actually.
Yeah, and I think we were very smart to actually to actually stop these bots and the Chinese government from actually stopping this episode, right? By just only mentioning the coronavirus thing. Now we do actually have a chance to also educate listeners about this situation.
Yes.
Like if we would have put in this Falun Gong hashtags, for example, that these videos could have been taken down instantly, or would have been raided by bots and angry trolls. And
Yeah, could be, yes. I think the Communist Party has always regarded Falun Gong as its number one target, number one enemy. Of course, they have many number one enemies now. Falun Gong is still very, very much their number one enemy.
Yeah, like I said, I find it very interesting because I've never even heard of it, and I consider myself pretty well informed in most topics.
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
like,
for Falun Gong, I think there's a website, Falun Info, FALUN info.net. So there's a lot of Falun Gong, information about the persecution of Falun Gong. And also I have written, you mentioned I've written like a book about my own experience in the labor camp, how I ended up there, how I got out, and how I got involved in all this kind of thing. So it's an autobiography. It's called Witnessing History, One Woman's Fight for Freedom and Falun Gong. So if you search for my name or for the book title, or you search there's about page at my own website, jenniferzengblog.com, jenniferzengblog.com. The about page, there are links to my books, and there's also a award-winning documentary about my story called Free China, The Courage to Believe. You can get more information and more thorough, knowledge of what's really happening in the day-to-day life in the labor camp. I think it's quite should be a very challenging and interesting read. After the Second World War ended, human being once vowed never again. But if you read my book, you would feel you something maybe, if not worse, but I think equally than of the Nazi concentration camp is still happening in China and on a very large scale. So I do hope you can, if you want to learn more, you can either go to falluninfo.net or jenniferzengblog.com to get a read of my book or watch that movie to learn a little bit more about the persecution.
For me, I thought that the concentration camps kind of just started over like the past maybe like 5 years. I had no idea it's been going on for 20 plus years. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was thrown into the camp in 2000. The persecution started in 1999, so the first it detained us maybe for 15 or 1 month in a prison, and then a detention center, and then they found 15 days are not enough to get us give up or submit to their suppression, so they threw us into labor camp. Then they gave us long sentences like jail terms, 10 years, 15 years, 18 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never, like I said, I never even heard of it until I actually saw it in your bio, and then I looked it up, and then I was like, oh wow, this has been going on since at least like the 2000s, and I was like, that's crazy, because I thought, like I said, I thought it was recent that they started these labor concentration camps. I didn't think.
I think because of the Uyghur labor camp, I think there were a lot more coverage than the persecution of Falun Gong. So many people learn about these labor camps or these concentration camps. So after the Uyghurs got in there, but the persecution of Falun Gong happened years ago.
Yeah,
and I think because of the world failed to stop them there. And that's why they say, if we can do this to Falun Gong, and they also have so many people, and the world says nothing, why can't we just do this to another group of people as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, with the Uyghur Muslims, they are a smaller group in China, but of course they are a community of 1 billion Islamic believers around the world. So for that creates for them a huge amount of exposure, so they get a lot more attention to that case.
Yes.
So it's very unfair, of course. I mean, everyone is of course equal, but they have this advantage over that they could get more attention. But I know that they actually called it re-education camps, right? At first.
Yes. The education. So the full name is the labor camp I was in is re-education through forced labor. So that's the full name of these camps.
Yeah, and now it actually becomes like very much visible again because of the whole Corona thing. Like all eyes are on China now, right? And you can see how the government responds to a virus, and that they can quarantine, cut off entire cities. And you do see videos airing where they have some sort of like violence against people. They're kind of rude, right? They're like forcing people sometimes, like compared to other countries around the world, they're like very authoritarian in their response. And this, like, it kind of goes into this. It connects to this entire situation again too. That the government has a sort of like oppressive way of dealing with such situations.
Yes, that's the only way they know.
Yeah, yeah. You go ahead, okay. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was done making my comment. I'm just like shocked about it. That it was going on for like 20 plus years, and that like these camps have been active for that long, and they kind of shifted from that to the Muslim Uyghurs, and I was just the Falun Gong. I'm just I'm a little speechless about it. But
Well,
it's
like,
been going on for so long.
like
It's
1999, I
crazy.
think they were like on the top of the Falun Gong, like with over 70 million people, right? And then you're talking about
Yes.
then it becomes too big for the government. They think like now they become like dangerous to us. They teach spirituality and not the Communist Party being the top power,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just still, I'm just shocked that China has had these camps operating for that long, and that nobody has kind of like lashed out at them for these camps, because I mean, that's in my view at least. It's similar to Nazi Germany. I mean, except we don't know if China currently is committing genocide against the Uyghurs, or in the past. Like, was there any Jennifer? Was there any cases where China actually killed some of the prisoners?
Oh, yeah, too many. I think if you go to followinfo.com or minghui.com, there were, I think, at least more than 4,000 very documented cases
Oh wow!
of the individual's name, who they are, how they got killed, how they got tortured to death. I personally, when I was in the camp, I personally knew a case of a lady tortured to death in the camp, because
Oh
they
wow!
have they have a goal to eradicate Falun Gong. I think I talk about it from our mind. So if they can't change our mind, they'd rather torture us to death. So there are many cases of people being tortured to death because they refuse to give up their spiritual belief in truth, compassion, and forbearance, or tolerance.
That
Yes, there are
is
thousands
what.
of these documented cases. That's not include the organ harvesting issue.
Yeah, and keep in
Right.
mind, okay, that these people were just like meditating,
And
right?
those
That's what you do.
cases are only the cases we know of, just like the coronavirus thing. There are so many cases we don't know, because it's very hard for any people outside of China to go into China to connect these cases. If they cover it up, and there's no channel for the people to send this information outside of China, so there's no way we can know. I actually personally met a woman in Australia, Melbourne. She is not a Falun Gong practitioner, but her brother was tortured to death for practicing Falun Gong, but his brother's name is not included in that list I told you earlier on Falun Gong's website. So I
Right.
told her, why don't you submit your brother's name to the Falun Gong website, so at least his death was recorded, was recognized, and one day if something one day when the issue is readdressed, at least your brother didn't die out of nowhere. And she refused. She was so scared because
Right.
she knew if her brother's name appeared in that list, the authorities would suspect it is her who released the information outside because she is in Melbourne. So that's the case I knew, but up to now, her brother's case is not included in that list. So there could be 4,000, but there could be maybe 10 times more than that number. Just like the coronavirus, we see some people say you put one more or two more zeros behind the numbers. That could be about the real cases.
That's shocking to me. That's in my opinion, I kind of always have seen the shift that has been taking place in China from communism to a dictatorship. In my opinion, like we're now starting to see China with these surveillance technologies and facial recognition, and they have these cameras that are out in the streets where they can identify anybody within a moment, like a couple seconds, and that
Yes, and
information.
now they can recognize you with your marks on.
Yeah,
They
that
just
too.
developed that latest technology.
Yep.
Yes, go on. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, adding on to what you just said, with the surveillance technology. I mean, I'm just shocked at how um, China has shifted over the years, and I didn't know that. Like I said, the concentration camps were going on for like 20 plus years. So now, to me, when I look at China, I see that they had these concentration camps going on years ago, and then now they're shifting to facial recognition technology. I know that very recently they're now requiring people to do a user verification, facial recognition for using their cell phones and the internet, and wow, whew, I'm
Yeah.
speechless. Like, it's crazy.
Yes, and I think people maybe inside China barely realized how, they are like running naked, but without realizing it. Their
Mm,
cell phone, everything they share through the internet, so cell phone is controlled or is monitored by the government.
hmm
Whenever government wants to learn something about you, they are now using cell phone to make all the payment, whatever you buy, whatever your financial status, wherever you've been, whoever you've met, whoever is on your contact list, whoever make a bad comments about the party, it's all
mm.
included in your social credit system.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's like running naked in the street without you knowing it. But I think in the eyes of the party, everybody is naked. They know every secret of you.
Yeah, and I've also heard with that social credit system that if you have a low enough social credit score, you can't travel like outside the country. Is that right?
Yeah, they banned you, and you could have even have problem traveling inside the country. And now the surveillance system was so advanced, they put a special, maybe kind of some kind of information into their second generation ID card. They have a chip in it, so they put that thing in the chip. So for Falun Gong practitioners, I know as soon as they scan your ID, they know you are a Falun Gong practitioner, and they can even scan your ID from 30 meters away. So police officers, if they have that kind of scanner, if
Mm.
they scan it, so within 30 minutes or 30 meters, they know, oh, there's a Falun Gong there. I need to maybe watch over her, or maybe I need to arrest her. So it's already get to this extent. If you want to apply for a passport, you swipe your ID card, the information immediately jump onto the screen. Oh, they know, oh, this is a Falun Gong. No, we don't get him a passport.
Wow. Yeah, we also saw that the Chinese police were kind of involved in Hong Kong and were beating up protesters in Hong Kong when that was going on before the coronavirus happened. After the coronavirus, I mean, Hong Kong there hasn't been nearly as many protests as before. I mean, there's been people, but it's not as large as it was.
Yes, I
Um,
think they are taking advantage of this coronavirus issue to push down, I think, the protests in Hong Kong. And very recently, they arrested several, I think, a very renowned person in Hong Kong, like the editor of the Apple Daily newspaper, some law makers, and whoever is opposed to the party. So the crackdown is still happening. Of course, there are
when
not
did
as
that
many.
happen? I didn't even see that.
Several days ago,
Oh
what's
wow.
his name? Yeah, they arrested three very renowned person of Hong Kong's citizens. One is the owner of this Apple Daily. It's very much against the Communist Party. It's covered a lot of the protests in Hong Kong. So they
Mhm.
arrest him for something happened back in last August. Something they arrested three people. One is a lawmaker. Another one I forgot who is that. It's quite famous in Hong Kong.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
they're taking kind of advantage of the situation and
Yes. Yes,
t-
of the coronavirus, and they are
right.
still. I think just several days ago, there were some small scale protests or kind of remembrance of this crackdown 6 months ago. We saw videos of this. They are still using very heavy-handed, suppression against these protesters, and they are having plain clothes police use batons against those protesters just several
Yeah.
days ago. It's just a smaller scale protests.
Before we also saw there was a plainclothes police officer that shot a student. Our Hong Kong show kind of covered that.
Yeah.
What, like last year, I think it was. Mark, is that last year?
Yeah, yeah, near the end of last year. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if they could do this, on the street with this, they know cameras were rolling. If they could do it openly on the street in the street of Hong Kong, could you imagine what they could do in the labor camps when nobody's watching, no camera was rolling? That's why so many people
Right.
tortured to death in there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And many are actually driven into insanity in the camp because of the sleep deprivation. They didn't allow people to sleep. As long as you don't collapse, you don't agree to be reformed, they keep you awake. So the longest period I knew was 42 days, 42 nights, no sleep at all.
Wow.
So many people, collapse or driven into
Right.
insanity. They lost their consciousness or lost their mind. They were no longer themselves. That kind of torture, I think, could is enough to kill any kind of human being.
Yeah, I think after like don't quote me on this, but I think that after like 20 days, I think you start losing your cognitive ability to think.
Yes, I read somewhere like the longest period a normal person can hold up without sleep is 11 days,
Hmm.
11 nights. But they keep people awake 42 days and 42 nights.
That makes as far as I know, I don't know if the U.S. and Guantanamo Bay did that. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but I mean that makes it look like nothing. Like 42 days. That's
Yeah.
a long time to keep somebody awake
Yes.
and be
Yes.
torturing them at the same time. That's crazy.
Yes, I think that lady survived that. I think she is maybe a very rare case. I witnessed with my own eyes that very moment of one young woman was tortured into insanity in the labor camp. I wrote about it. So she lost her, I think, sanity after being tortured for 5 days, 4 nights, or 4 nights, 5 days. I forgot which is which. So this lady is really a miracle. So she's right now living in the in the U.S. and her name is Zhang Yijie. If you search for her name in the Minghui website, you can read her story. She wrote about the whole process, so she could remember how she survived, what she that 42 days and 42 nights, and what she encountered. So that's a very shocking read, and I think it's unprecedented in human history.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I've never even heard of it, and that's and like I said, it's a unprecedented number, and it's crazy information that this has been going on in the modern day age, and like nobody has talked about it.
Yeah.
And again, with that, I think that really opens up the possibility, or I would say more probability, that China is absolutely lying about this coronavirus as well, because if they can cover up, like you said, if they can cover that up when that's happening in secret, and they're covering up what's happening in the public,
Yes. What else they cannot cover up?
right? Yeah, it's just so. It just shows that they will cover up something, and not hesitate in a sense. And
Yeah.
we're starting to see, back to the coronavirus, we're starting to see similar scenes out of Italy and Iran that we saw in China, where the media over here in the West was saying that a lot of the videos where Chinese were collapsing were fake. But then we start seeing videos like that coming out of Italy, coming out of Iran, where it's similar, where people are just all of a sudden just dropping.
Yeah.
And it's crazy and scary. Like, what is this virus? Like, I don't think there's ever been a virus that has caused people to drop like that, and it's also been so contagious like this. Like, they're saying that. Did you see the reports about how this virus can survive in the air for 48 hours?
Yes, I think there are some sort of this report. And I think another thing is, people can carry it without realizing it or without showing any symptoms. So they spread it to among many people without anybody realizing it.
Right.
So that's another very dangerous thing about this.
For what they said, that they said the max number of days was like at least 30 days. Like, that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
unheard of for a virus. Like, it's unheard of for a virus to be both contagious and
Yeah.
deadly. And
Yes.
this is scary. Like, this could turn into the Spanish flu, in my opinion. What do you think about that? Do you think that is a possibility that we could, um, like 6, 8 months down the line, that there could be like hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions dead?
I have really no idea. I think I know, but experts are saying those kind of different terrifying numbers. But
Yeah,
if you do this, models, you do the calculations, and you add those numbers up. That is the model. But because I think this is really fairly new, I think transparency and a proper way to handle it could help, stop the spreading. But so they cover up the no transparent and mishandling could be make things go much worse. But I think if we in our civilized society, if we have keep transparency, keep people reformed, and make, I think, correct measures to try to stop it, to contain it, uh, we can only hope, or if we develop the vaccine quickly enough, I think we can only now pray and hope it would not be that bad. But we still don't know. I think we should still be very alert.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I think that it's a possibility that those numbers could become a reality, but I think right now throwing around those numbers is kind of a detriment to us because it's causing immense panic and fear, and it's better to be prepared than to be scared and kind of basically putting yourself into a fear paradigm where and there's been studies about this. If you put yourself into that kind of mindset, you can actually get yourself sick.
Yes,
from it.
I think, don't give yourself bad, psychological hints. So the fear itself, I think, it doesn't do people any good. But we do need to, I think, inform ourselves, educate ourselves, and to take necessary procedures, but don't go panic. If, under this kind of circumstances, we have to, I think, trust. I think maybe the only thing we can rely on is our own body, our own immune system, whether we are strong enough to fight this virus, because there's no medicine yet, and no cure, special some kind of treatment yet. We have only rely on our own physical condition, so we need to keep ourselves strong, in good shape.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And the other thing that I just wanted to touch on is did you see the reports about how survivors of this have reduced lung function by 20 to 30%?
Yes, I say something like that. I say also something like, even if you are cured, you've got, I think, some permanent problem with your lung system, or the virus will be living with you for maybe for life or for many years. So I think, of course, it's best we don't be affected it. We stay away from it. So that's very worrying too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've gone through all my questions. Mark, do you have any other questions for Jennifer?
No, I do have something to say, and that was about the whole coronavirus thing. That they are now so all like rushing for a vaccine, that they're now like this is an article 2 days ago, that they are like skipping the animal testing now, and they're testing directly on humans. Not sure if you read about that already, AK, but there's like I think this is in Canada. They're doing like a study now in the USA, and they're asking for 45 volunteers for a vaccine. They're skipping the animal testing. They're testing directly on humans. Thinking like
That could go bad.
yeah, but they're saying it is because this virus doesn't actually work on mice.
Yes, actually, we don't have a vaccine for SARS, which appeared 17 years ago. So we don't have vaccine for HIV. So I think that we best, rely on ourselves. I think build up our own body to be
I think
stronger.
so too. Yeah.
more reliable. But of course, if there's, I think many countries are rushing to produce a very workable vaccine. But yes, I think we do need proper procedures and to so it you can't something you just can't rush. If you skip this testing period, things could go wrong.
Yeah, and I've read that a group of Canadians has been able to grow the actual virus in a lab now, so that they say they are
I
now.
saw that.
Yeah, they say that
Yeah.
they're now closer to a vaccine because they can now grow it in a lab and they can do like testing on that stuff. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
grew it using a plant instead of the traditional means of eggs. I saw that. And also, I saw that they are now using the world's fastest supercomputer to comb through various different drug data to find out if there is a way to suppress the symptoms of the virus, and to kind of calm down the effect of it that it's causing inside of people's lungs, because it's causing permanent, irreversible damage in people's lungs. So they're trying to do everything they can, really, at this point, to try to delay, or as they're looking for a vaccine and cure.
okay, well at least that's a good thing. I mean that everyone's now working on this, and it it seems like, but it's also a thing
Yes.
like if you find a cure to this, it's also very profitable, right? And we're still
Yes.
dealing with like mostly a capitalist world. Everything is about
Yeah.
money, so yeah.
Yes, I think for the general public, the best thing is not to have it. So keep ourselves safe during
Yeah.
this crazy thing. It's our best choice. Of course, scientists do their job, and we hope they can find something quicker.
Yeah, and you can of course work on your immune system, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that you get it doesn't mean you have to be with like the 2% or 3% that dies from it. You can actually survive it. You have a good working immune system if you're healthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should be the primary thing, because there are plenty other illnesses you can get too, and you can also die
Yeah.
from it. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, that's true. But in regards to that, I saw that one article said they won't have a vaccine until 2022, and I was like, oh god,
oh yeah, it could be worst case scenario.
2 years. Yeah, yeah. The thing is, they've been like with Ebola. They said that they were going to have a vaccine for it within 6 to 8 months, and that never happened. So I mean, this is a really bad situation, and we really need all the smartest minds in the world to come up with a vaccine here to go after this virus.
I know the
Um,
Americans do have a vaccine against Ebola, against one specific strain of Ebola, but
yeah, right. One
they
strand.
yeah, they vaccinate people with it, but it only starts working 14 days after you are vaccinated with it. Then it
Yes.
works.
Yeah, but it's also dependent on how long you've been infected with Ebola. So if you've been infected for a decent period of time, it won't work. So there is no like
Mm.
full-on cure for Ebola, or SARS, as Jennifer said.
No, see, that's the
So
thing. There isn't even a cure for the common cold. So
yeah, right, and that's a coronavirus too. So it's a type of coronavirus. So I mean,
yeah, yeah, there's like similar viruses, and have you SARS? You don't have a cure against it. You can't cure the common cold. It was discovered in the 1960s. So yeah.
yeah, it's a scary situation. It's a very scary situation where And I really hope, even though they won't tell the public that this is a biological virus that escaped a lab, I really hope that they stop doing this type of testing, or at least if they're doing this type of testing, they take way more precautions to make sure that somebody infected with a virus doesn't leave a lab and then infect everybody else, because that's the way I see how this got out, in my opinion. And also the opinions of the South Chinese scientist who wrote up a report and basically said that there was a bat that was infected with SARS that bit a scientist and also peed on a scientist's arm, and that the scientists self-quarantined themselves. And there's no more information on that. And I kind of think that that's probably where it came from, especially since China censored that report.
And I think there's another report recently, also by South China, I think, or morning or something like. There was a lab in Shanghai that published the genome sequence of coronavirus, and the authority closed that lab on the next day. So
Interesting. Okay, I didn't
yes.
even know that.
Yes, there was a report in South China Morning Post. Yeah, if
Okay.
you search for that, yeah, I think I tweet that several days ago when that report just came out. Yeah,
Okay, I'll have to look at your Twitter feed
yeah,
then to see that.
yeah,
Yeah, because that
it's a
sounds
lab
interesting to me.
in Shanghai. Yes, they closed down that lab the next day after they published that.
Huh.
So
So
I
yeah,
think there are a lot they want to cover up, and there are internal documents asking them to destroy a record of diseases of patients' information, data, even those kind of things they want to delete.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
got
definitely
that
a red flag for
information, I
me.
think, yeah, translated into English and on my Twitter somewhere. So I forgot which date, but I did send that out in English translation. They order to have those kind of data in their computer be completely deleted.
That is crazy. So that just
Yes.
shows even more that they're trying to cover up this. Like
Yeah.
we saw that
I
we
think they at
saw.
least want to make it very difficult for the outside world to figure out what's really happened there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like I was
like
gonna say,
when you committed a crime and you are escape, you try to erase all the trace of your escaping so that the police don't catch you. I think
right?
that's what they are doing.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely seems like that for sure. I was just gonna say that we saw that China was mislabeling some of the coronavirus cases where people died and saying that they just died from the flu or pneumonia or another problem like heart problem or something like that. And
Yeah.
they were kind of fudging the numbers. And those reports have come out a lot from a different from various different media. All over the place. I've seen those reports now, and we also saw the crematoriums, leaks coming out of the crematoriums where they were saying that they were burning multiple bodies a day, more than what China was reporting as the death count. So
Yes, and another important number is out of all the bodies that burned, 60% of the person actually died from their home. They are not even have a
right.
chance to be diagnosed, to see a doctor. So those persons definitely will not be included in the death case of coronavirus because they died at home. They never got confirmed whether they have this virus or not. They already died.
Yeah, we also saw that there was videos of Communist Party officials going to people's homes, locking them inside of their homes, in some cases even welding the door.
Yeah.
And
So that's how they deal with this problem. If they can't kill the virus, they kill the people who has the virus.
yeah, and I kind of thought at first that some of those videos might have been staged fake, like somebody might have, but after you just told me about the concentration camps going on for 20 years, I see them doing that. Like, I don't think that those are fake in any type of
Yes.
way. It's crazy that what they
And
were doing.
I think the most important thing is there are so many different kind of videos of people, either they waited the iron door, or I have a video of people put piles of coals in front of some people's homes, so that they cannot go out. So there are so many different videos, different methods, and the
Yeah.
most important, there is no motivation for these people to stage this kind of fake videos. For what?
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. At first, when I saw some of the welding videos, I thought maybe that was like not real. I thought maybe it was edited footage. Like, I didn't think it was like the people themselves faking it. I thought it was edited footage in some cases, but um, no,
From a movie.
no. I thought like there was like special effects added, because some of the there's one video of welding where it kind of looks like the sparks were added into the video, but I guess it's not. Um, there's like sparks off the door as the person's welding it. So yeah, I kind of thought that it looked a little bit fake, but I guess not. I mean, I believe it. Like, I've seen several videos of the welding going on from different Chinese cities, and I was just shocked. I was like, they're literally welding people inside of an apartment. Like, what is this? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was one video that I don't even know how the guy got the video online. To be honest, he was recording a Chinese official, and the Chinese official says, "I'm from the Communist Party. I'm here to lock you inside your home." Like,
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
Yeah, I think, I also saw that video that he's saying, do you have enough vegetables? Do you have enough rice?
Yeah.
If you have enough, don't go out. And he locked it with a big iron chain. So people
Yes.
kind
Yeah.
of cooperating. They think, oh, it's a major, the mayor, the party is taking to control this virus. We have to, obey it and go along with it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you on that. It's crazy to see the level of communication between the lower level officials and the higher level officials, and how they're doing this. Like, it's crazy. Like, I can't imagine what type of person you have to be to accept orders to lock other people inside of their homes and put other people at risk like that. That's just crazy to
Yeah.
me.
The evil system of, or the evilness of the party, I think, is beyond many Westerners' imagination. So the welding, the people, I think, is a piece of cake. Compared to what I suffered, they use electric batons to shock me, and
Hmm.
they torture people to death, and they have a quota to achieve. If they didn't achieve their quota of the so-called reform, they will lose their money, they will lose their job. So the Communist Party has a system and so many kind of different measures to make sure you do evil for them. If you don't do evil, you can't survive, you can't support your family, you can't have a job, you can't survive in this society. So they make sure you do evil. If you don't do evil, you end up like me, in the labor camp. If you don't, because you don't listen to the party. If you listen to the party, the next step is you do whatever they tell you to do. Otherwise, you are still not listening to them.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely seems like that with the information that has been coming out. Like I said about welding people inside of their homes, and also the refusal to allow some of these people to go to the hospital by doing that. I mean, that's just inhumane. It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
like,
too many human things in communist China. Only people don't know and are not aware of.
mm, yeah. Mark, did you have anything to add?
Um, yeah, no. I was thinking like, but it's difficult. Like normally we ask like what listeners can do to help out with these situations, right? But I can't even. Well, maybe because we're dealing with a lot of censorship, right? By the Chinese government. Like, what are the best sources we can get to still on, like here, like in the West, if we want to find out reliable information about the situation in China?
Hmm. I think I recommend, of course, well, first of all, you can follow me on my Twitter. That's Jennifer ATNTD, Jennifer ATNTD. And I think that there's also the epochtimes.com website is a good source of information, and also ntd.com. These two websites also covered a lot of inside information from China. They have reporters doing first-hand interview people inside China doing telephone calls, and they sometimes people from China submit informations to them because they trust. These two websites started off from Chinese version, so they have a lot of trust among the people inside China who know how to jump over the Great Firewall to access their website. Their website, of course, are all blocked inside China, so they are now having English versions as well, and they do a lot of translation of their original report gained from inside China. So ntd.com and epochtimes.com. I think these two websites are very good source to gain the first-hand information from China. And they are very independent. They are not controlled by any corporate interest we talked about before. They are not afraid of speaking out the truth.
Well, we saw NTD. They released the recording of a crematorium where they called a crematorium, and the person on the other line said we're burning like 40 bodies a day, and I was like, whoa, what?
Yes, that's a exclusive investigation they did.
Yeah.
So they because they have, I think the good thing is they have a Chinese site. They have a lot of people, Chinese speaking reporters and editors who understand the Chinese situation, who can search information in the Chinese social media. They can screening and they can verify them, and they can make judgment whether this is true or whether this is false. So, and they have bilingual people like me who can translate those information into English. So I think that's quite good source for us to learn situation inside China.
So I'm thinking like we will do well, every week we do like episodes about coronavirus, and we will continue doing that. I mean, until the actual virus is gone, and it could take a while. But we should actually do some more research in the other story, right, about the Falun Gong thing, because actually we never did this before with our entire. Like in the years we are broadcasting, we never really covered the Falun Gong. At least not that I can remember. mentioned it maybe a few times, a little, but it deserves a lot more attention. So we should follow up
Yes,
on this, I
I
think.
agree. Yes, yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. So maybe, yeah, maybe you want to come back in the future, and then we will talk more about this, about Falun Gong, and maybe we'll
Yes,
get like
yes, I'm happy to.
and we can also do a little more research. And I mean, AK also, he's always die-hard researching every day.
Yeah,
And if he goes into this, then he will also have a lot more questions. And I can
yes.
also like reach out to people in this area here in Europe, maybe have more information too, and how they are experiencing it, and then we can do like more about this.
Hmm.
Yeah, and hopefully the coronavirus doesn't. I mean, the best case scenario is this only lasts a few months. Um, and I really do hope that that's what it is. I don't want the worst case scenario for this. Like, I don't think anybody does. But we're just more so being prepared for the worst and staying informed while being prepared for the worst. Um, so.
Yeah. Yeah, well, viruses they do tend to mutate. Sometimes they get weaker during times. Eventually, that will like weaken and eventually die out, but not always. So it is a question. We have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks very much, Jennifer, for coming on. I know we've taken a lot of your time tonight, and we really do appreciate you coming on and discussing the coronavirus and also Falun Gong. You've been a very, very good guest, very informative. I've learned a lot in regards to Falun Gong. I've never even looked into it, and I really do want to look into it more. And if you can send me some links to do that, I would appreciate it. And then, yeah, we can have you back on and discuss that a little bit more than the coronavirus. Hopefully, at a better time when people aren't fearful from the virus and everything, and we can really get more into the Falun Gong situation and what we could do as the public and get out there for our audience to kind of get a hold on the situation and highlight what China's been doing.
Hmm. Great. Yes, I will send you some information later for you to do some more research on Falun Gong. Maybe we do another episode about this.
Yeah, we should.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I will end this. Yeah, because I do think for our listeners, I do think we all can actually. We can't do much about the virus, right? Except for doing the hygiene things and all the precautions. But I think we can actually help with the Falun Gong situation, creating awareness for this, and so
Yeah.
we'll do like a follow-up episode on it. And to all listeners, well, Jennifer, I want to thank you, of course, and to all the listeners, I want to thank you for listening, and I want to ask you all to share, because that's what we depend on. And we'll be back later, probably tomorrow. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with a journalist from Italy. He's in the Italian battleground where people are fighting against the virus.
Yeah, that should be an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely. So tune in tomorrow then, and we'll be back. Okay.